I mean, what is entrepreneur relief? I suppose let's think about that. Entrepreneur relief is a relief that is given if an individual or trustees dispose of the right kind of asset in the right kind of circumstances. Let's put it very, very generally like that. What is the right kind of asset? The right kind of asset is a business asset as defined. And what is a business asset as defined? What is the definition of a business asset? A business, which you might liken to a sole tradership, an interest in a partnership, which is a trading partnership, or shares in a trading company, which is unlisted. So shares on three types of asset. Now, there are some planning points around entrepreneur relief that you need to think about here, and there's some anomalies here with the whole new concept of capital gains tax. Anomaly one is that you have the situation where you could have gains being made at different parts of the 2010-2011 tax year, some of which, if they are before the 23rd of June 2010, can only be taxed at 18% max, because that's the rule, and some, if they fall after that date, can be taxed at 28%. Supposing you've got allowances. Well, everybody's got an allowance. The personal allowance, the annual exemption as it's called, £10,100. Suppose you've got losses, either because you've got losses that you've brought forward from earlier years or you've incurred losses in the year. What can you do with those? Well, the answer is, and this is within the No. 2 Finance Act 2010, you do it in the best possible way. The rules are benign in this regard. So you can choose which gains you are going to use to relieve against your annual exemption and your losses brought forward. That is very good. So it's a potential anomaly, but that's the answer to the anomaly. It's been legislated for, and it's been legislated for in favour of the taxpayer. So that's sort of point one dealt with. Entrepreneurs, and I mentioned a couple of clients who had done this, might have rushed to dispose of their companies, their shares in their companies, before the 22nd of June. They wanted to get in before the budget. Plenty of people did this. This is not a hypothetical situation. What is their situation? Supposing you have your entrepreneur who sells the shares in his company for, well, let's make an easy example, £5 million. He sold for £5 million, but he did it on the 22nd of June, let's say. What's his tax treatment? Well, his entrepreneur relief is only 2 million. So he's got 2 million at effectively 10%. The other 3 million is at 18%. If he steps forward a day to the 23rd of June, lo and behold, he could have had 5 million at 10%. Now, what can he do? Is there anything he can do about it? Other than tearing up all the documentation? No, there's nothing he can do about it. He cannot say, oh, I've got some extra entitlement, I want to carry it back. I want to carry back across the great chasm, which is midnight 22nd of June. He can't do that. All he can do is kick himself, because if he had waited, he would have saved 8% of £3 million in our example. So nothing you can do about that. If deals are done, they're done. I suppose you could rush off to council and see if he could draft a cunning deed of rescission. I mean, it is possible to enter into a contract which is rescindable, but I think you're clutching at straws to try and do that. I mean, if you have got a deal which has been done and you have sold to a third-party purchaser, I doubt that any third-party purchaser is going to say, oh yes, let's tear it all up and start again and pretend it was all on the 23rd of June. You're not going to be able to do that. If you did have, I mean, there were structures that people were meddling with to attempt to hedge their bets where they were putting in place rescindable contracts. And if you did have that, then yes, you could rescind and go forward. But anyway, that's all a bit airy-fairy. Entrepreneur relief itself, let's just think about that. I said you've got to have the right kind of asset, you've got to have the right kind of circumstances. What are those circumstances? Well, for shares in a company, there are three fundamental issues that you've got. fundamental issue number one is you've got to have enough shares. Under taper relief, any amount got you business asset taper relief. It didn't matter how many you had. But under entrepreneur relief, you need 5%. If you have not got 5%, you're not at the races. You need 5% to qualify. You also need to be an officer or employee of the company or a group company. What does that mean? Well, an officer is very easy. If you're a director or a secretary, you're home and dry. Do you have to be full-time working? No, you don't. Do you have to be active? No, you don't. What's an employee? Employee is slightly more difficult. An employee, to be an employee, implies that you are providing services to an employer under some kind of contractual arrangement, whether it's a written contract or an implied contract, an oral contract, doesn't matter, but it implies that you're doing something, that there is some action. So you can't just say, oh, I'm an employee, but I've never done anything and I've never earned anything. That would be slightly odd. But if you're a director, you can say that. As long as you have been made a director, you could even, I mean, it's bizarre, you can even form a subsidiary company of your company, which does nothing other than be dormant, and be a director of that. That would be enough to qualify. It's absolutely bizarre. You could be a joint company secretary. I mean, you could do all sorts of non-things and qualify. So you've got to qualify for a year. This is the difficult thing, an interesting thing. So it is no good on the eve of a sale saying, oh, right, what we'll do is I'll make so-and-so a director now, and I'll somehow make sure he or she has got 5%, and then they'll get some entrepreneur relief. It won't work. They've got to qualify for a year. It's a 12-month qualification period. But this is interesting, because supposing you've already got 5%, let's say 5%. You've already got 5%. You're already a director, you've already worked, you know, the director, you qualify. You've got your year under your belt and you've got your 5%. Supposing you do the mathematics, let's say it's a husband and wife couple. Let's take a very easy example, husband and wife couple. And the company is going to be sold for 10 million. And let's be sexist about it, let's say husband has got 95% of the shares, wife has got 5%. But if 10 million is the gain, he'll get 9.5 million, she'll only get 500,000. That's no good. What husband could do in those circumstances is give her another 45%. Does she have to own that other 45% for a whole year? No. She has to be a qualifying individual for at least a year. She's already a qualifying individual. It doesn't matter. You can top her up and the top-up shares immediately qualify. Perfect. You're home and dry. Transfer shares to her, sell the company, 5 million each, entrepreneur relief on the whole 10 million. Perfect. If, however, she has only got 4%, you cannot say, oh, well, you know, and you want to give her, I don't know, 10%. By giving her the extra 6, she might have owned 4 for ages, doesn't get her anywhere at all. You've got to qualify for a year, so you can't do anything about that. Can't do anything about that.